Is it working now? Oh, yes, it is. Thank goodness for that. I was getting a little worried then because we had a slight problem with the microphones. And you may have noticed when you are watching a live stream, it is always nice if you can hear what people are saying. Hello again. Yes, it is English Addict on a very windy day. Okay, we've made it. We're on. I hope we are anyway, or else I'm going to be ever so embarrassed. I will end up with egg on my face. It is a great expression. In English, if you have egg on your face, it means you are highly embarrassed. Something has happened that has made you very embarrassed indeed. Hi, everybody. This is Mr. Duncan in England. That's me, by the way. Thank you very much for joining me today. And we are live. For those who don't believe me, it is now 9 minutes past 2 o'clock on a Sunday, a very windy Sunday. We did just have a look outside the window, and there it is outside. We have a very grey, I would say windy, damp, but the really strange part of today's weather is it's incredibly warm. It's around, at the moment, 10 degrees, 10 Celsius at the moment, and tomorrow, apparently, it's going to be around 14 Celsius, which is crazy temperature, to be honest with you, because it is still January, and we are still deep in winter here in the UK. It's rather unusual, I will be honest with you. Talking of wind... I know that's very unfair. Talking of lots of wind, and whenever this guy is in the room, there is a lot of wind blowing around for various reasons. Here he comes, everyone. It's Mr. Steve.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Wonderful viewers from across the globe, maybe even the universe. We don't know who's watching us, do we, Mr. Duncan?
We do not.
Maybe in a few light years we'll get replies from aliens on the live chat.
I would like to think that there are people on Earth watching us at the moment. That would be ever so nice.
There are people definitely watching us on Earth, Mr. Duncan. You are right. It's very windy. We're expecting a storm. We're always talking about the weather, but I've been out there today, Mr. Duncan, in the garden because it felt like spring was coming. We've been having sort of -3, -5 for the last 7 days or so.
Which, of course, is the normal temperature, winter, because we are in deep winter.
Can I speak now, Mr. Duncan? And I went outside into the garden. It felt like 20 degrees. In reality, the temperature has gone up by about 15 degrees. It was lovely out. I was doing a few jobs in the garden, Mr. Duncan, tidying up, getting rid of some dead plants.
Okay.
I'm just talking, filling time. We've got 2 hours. It was lovely out there. It felt like, when that frost goes, I know spring is on the way.
Well, it's about 8 weeks away.
But it's on the way. We're over that cusp. We're over the top of the hill. Well, we're going up the hill towards spring. And it feels like good weather and good times with it are coming soon.
Well, at least we're starting off with something that's a little bit, what's the word? Optimistic.
Optimistic.
Isn't that nice? Anyway, enough of whatever that was. It's windy, it's warm, and we are both going on little trips this week. That's all I'm saying. Also, you may have noticed in the studio there is a new thing lurking around in the background. Have you noticed it? There it is.
Yeah, no. Oh, I was going to say, it's too late now. I was going to say, first person to point out what has changed in your studio gets a special prize.
Okay. Anyway, we're not doing that. So,
That would have been an interesting game.
Okay, Steve, there is a dog in the studio, but this is not a real dog. Now, this little dog, there is a story that goes with this dog. Yesterday we were walking through Much Wenlock and I saw this little dog outside I was going to say the junk shop, but I don't think they would like it if I called it the junk shop. There is an antique shop, and this little guy was sitting outside the doorway, and I thought at first it was a real dog. But as I got closer, I realised it wasn't, and it was for sale. And it wasn't that expensive, so I decided to buy it. And you may notice now there is a new edition, and I have named him Napoleon Basingstoke III. Now, I know what you're going to say, Mr. Duncan. What about when you're shouting him, when you're calling him back, when you take him for walks? Are you going to shout, Napoleon Basingstoke III, come on, come back? I don't know. Maybe I will. But
That's his name, is it?
Napoleon Basingstoke III.
What strange name.
It is a strange
What's
name,
wrong
isn't
with
it?
Fido?
Well, I'm just sick and tired of names for dogs that are so common. So I've decided to give him the craziest, longest name I could think of. Napoleon Basingstoke III is the name of my new little dog. I think it is it's a type of terrier, maybe. I haven't worked out what type of dog it is, but it is a new edition.
Somebody can tell us if they're dog experts or they know a lot about dogs. If that is a particular breed of dog, maybe you could let us know, because we don't know. Christina says that she loves going into antique shops. Well, this is a kind of antique second-hand shop. They clear people's houses after they've died.
Not always.
And then they sell the contents, a lot of them are probably antiques. But you have to be very careful in this particular shop, don't you, Mr. Duncan? Because they, let's just say they display everything in a very haphazard way. Everything's balanced on the edge of shelves and tables.
Yes.
And one false move, it's crammed with stuff. Glassware, lots of breakable things, plates, glassware.
There is a lot of bone china in this shop.
And it's all on tables, on shelves, and it's right at the edge. And if you were to go in, say, with a bag, or if you were to accidentally move, you have to be so careful. You will knock something over and smash it.
There is a sign on the door that says, do not wear your rucksack or your backpack in the shop, because if you turn around and smash everything, you will have to pay for it. So all breakages in the shop must be paid for.
Yeah, well, that is very true. So I think about 50% of their profits come from people breaking things. Pedro likes my shirt, by the way. Thank you very much, Pedro.
Yes. Talking of the live chat, who was first today? Well, guess what?
I wonder.
It was the champion again. He is the champion of champions when it comes to clicking his mouse. It is Vitas. Congratulations.
But of course, lots of people, as usual, all on at around the same time.
Yes.
Within a few seconds of each other.
By
the way, Pedro calls me a prince.
We have lots of people on the live chat today. Quick hello to Beatrice, also Maroots. Also we have, who else? Oh, we have, of course, it would not be the live stream without Luis Mendez is here today. Hello, Luis. Nice to see you back as well. Who else is here? We have Palmyra. How is your leg, Palmyra? Is it feeling better? Now, as you may or may not know, Palmyra injured her ankle. Now, I'm not saying that she was drinking lots of wine when it happened, but I think You might not agree with me. You may not agree with me. You might say, Mr. Duncan, you idiot. What are you talking about? I think a lot of people, when they fall over, they are normally a little bit drunk.
Christina said she bought in an antique shop many years ago a huge, in fact, Chinese vase, or vase, as some people pronounce it. Maybe it's a Ming vase, Christina, and it could be worth a lot of money. You could be, multimillionaire-ess. Yes,
one of the early dynasties in China, because, of course, that is the reason why we call China. Fragile things made of pottery. Most of it originated in China. So fine china, bone china, it all refers to that type of fragile pottery. So if you have something from one of the early dynasties, such as I think there's Qing and Ming, but Ming is the one that a lot of people go for, because there are some beautiful examples of Ming pottery, and some of it maybe two and a half thousand years old. Some of this stuff, it's really, really old, and it's very rare to find something that is still complete or in one piece, because it's so fragile, isn't it, Steve?
Very, and it's when you go around this second-hand stroke antique shop in Much Wenlock, you feel as though you can break something at any. I don't like going in. I just feel too nervous. You can't even pass people because there's too much stuff. You can't go past somebody because you would brush against a piece of china.
Yes,
and it would fall on the floor and break.
And all breakages, if you break something in a shop, even if you don't want to buy it, you have to pay for it.
They'd have to catch me first.
Well, they do have CCTV cameras everywhere.
That's true.
So they will capture the moment. Anyway, that's my new little doggy. Can you remember the name of it, Steve?
Fido.
Napoleon Basingstoke III is the name of my little dog. I think it's a kind of terrier. I'm sure someone will look at my little dog in the studio. By the way, it's not a real dog. I'm sure you've already realised that. It's not real, but I couldn't resist buying it yesterday. It's probably the nearest that we will ever get to buying a real dog. Would you say?
Definitely. There's no cleaning up to do. Don't have to take it to the vet. Maybe a little touch up with a bit of paint here and there if it gets chipped. Don't have to take it for walks. So if anybody says to us, because everybody around here, virtually everybody where we work here or where we live here, all have dogs, and if you don't have one, they think there's something wrong with you. I'm not joking. They actually think there must be something wrong with you if you don't have a dog in the UK. I think anywhere in the UK, I think people just think, you haven't got a dog, what's wrong with you? That's what people are like certainly in England.
Well,
not sure about Wales and Scotland.
The strange thing is, Steve, and this is very strange, a lot of people now are starting to give up their dogs because they've realised that they are so expensive to keep and look after. So many people now are giving up their dogs. They are sending them back to where they got them. So many dogs are rescued from these dogs' homes. So they keep the dogs and then you can go along and choose one. But now a lot of people have realised that they are very expensive to keep. And you have to pay for food, you have to pay for medical treatment, which is incredibly expensive. So more and more people here in the UK are now returning their dogs. They are giving them back because they've realised they are just too expensive. And the other reason why, sometimes I know I'm critical, Steve, of dogs, and especially dog owners, but in Italy they have come up with a great idea to combat dog poop. because I think that is one of the biggest problems, isn't it? Dog poop on the pavement.
Or dogs not on a lead in public places.
But dog poop is the big problem because you step in it and it goes all over your feet. Well, apparently in Italy, they are trying to get all dog owners to submit a sample of their dog's poo so they can run a DNA test on it, and they can trace the dogs then from that DNA profile. So when they find some poo in the street, they can take it to the lab, analyse it, and find out which dog it was actually from. And then they can prosecute the owners. So well done, Italy, for doing that. I think it's a great idea.
It'd be funny if it turned out to be human poo.
Oh, Steve!
But what they should do is execute the owners. I think that's that would be a massive deterrent. If your dog's off a lead, if it poos in public and you don't collect it, because you have to collect it with plastic bags in the UK here.
Yes. It has to be your dog's, not somebody else's dog.
Your own dog, yes.
It has to be your own dog.
So I lost my train of thought there. It should be the death sentence for the owners. I mean, people now, when we grew up, if your dog was ill, and it was 12 or 11 or 12, and it was going to cost a lot of money to fix it, then you would just have the dog put down. But now a lot of people, I know people, have sent their dogs for MRI scans.
Yes.
And all sorts of things, which I understand if a dog is part of the family and you love that dog, but I don't know. I'm not going to comment any further on that.
Well, you just said that the owner should be executed, so I don't think you could go any further than that, Steve, to be honest. Hello to the live chat. Lots of people joining us who haven't joined us for a long time. Hello to K-pop. Hello to you. I haven't watched you for a long time, Mr. Duncan. Welcome back. I am here every single Sunday. Every Sunday, 2 p.m. UK time. And sometimes there is him as well. Mr. Steve will join in as well. And we will talk about all sorts of things. Today we are talking about being weak. When we talk about weakness, there are two ways of looking at it, I suppose, Steve. There are two ways of looking at weakness. So how would you describe that if you talked about weakness and we were talking about people? Do you think there's more than one way of looking at it?
You mean physical weakness or what? Weakness in what way do you mean? Physical, mental?
That's what I just asked. What are the ways?
You can be physically weak, obviously. In other words, your muscles aren't very strong. You can't go on a long walk without being exhausted. That could be age-related, of course.
That's me.
And the word weak implies that it's impaired. May be a better word.
Yes. And what's the other way?
Mental.
Yes.
But I mean,
But there is another one as well. There is a third one, which is character. Your character. So we often talk about weakness when we are talking about bodily strength, physical, maybe your mental strength to cope with life. Let's face it, all of us these days seem to be finding it harder and harder to cope with life. And of course your character as well. So we might describe a person as being weak in character. And I think a lot of people suffer from this particular type of weakness. They wish they could do something, or they wish they could be stronger with their character in society, with friendships, in relationships, maybe a person that you've always wanted to say something to, especially when you are annoyed about something. When we get annoyed, quite often we will just keep it inside. But some people don't. They will tell the other person what they really think. And that, I suppose, is part of the strength of character. So we are looking at that a little bit later on.
Just phrases. We're not accusing anyone of being... By the way, this is a long sleeve shirt. Pedro was asking. He couldn't see my arms, so he was asking if it was a long sleeve
There
or
we
a
go.
short sleeve
You could be
shirt.
seen now, Steve.
There we go. Cuffs. These are the cuffs.
I have to say, that looks really nice on camera.
Well, you see, I've got an admirer, at least one.
Yeah. And if you notice also, Mr. Steve is sitting in his comfortable corner. I think your corner looks more comfortable than mine does. So it looks very nice, very relaxed. Steve is looking very relaxed today, I have to say. So we are looking at strength and weakness in the way a person is with their character. That coming a little bit later on. Today is someone's birthday. Well, it would be if they were still alive. Mr. Steve, do you know whose birthday it is today? Someone very funny, someone we both grew up with on the television.
What is the date today? 22nd?
The date is the 21st
21st today.
Of January.
21st of
2024.
January. I don't know. So when did they die?
They died in, I think it was the mid-1980s. They died in very sad circumstances. They died alone in their house, watching television, of all things.
Oh, right.
wait,
Yes,
there's
I know. Yes.
because they were on television for many years. Today would have been the birthday of Benny Hill. Benny Hill would have been 100 today.
100. Well, he'd still be making people laugh. Which, we started. I mean, he went out of fashion because he's not seen as, like a lot of comedians from the sort of 70s, 80s, not seen as politically correct anymore. Because a lot of Benny Hill's jokes were sort of, he had a lot of naked ladies in his programs.
It was seen as
like
misogynistic.
Yes.
Misogynistic means that you have a hatred, or maybe you are treating women like objects. Maybe you are a person who sees women as not being equal, that sort of thing. So Benny Hill did have a tough time in the early 1980s. And here's a strange bit of trivia. The person who sacked Benny Hill from his show, they said, "We don't want you anymore, Benny." He was also a child actor, and he was one of the first child actors to play Oliver Twist. And he went on to be one of the most powerful people in television. John Howard Davis. You can look him up on the Wikipedia page if you want later. John Howard Davis became one of the most powerful people in TV. He was also a TV producer. He produced the first series of Monty Python. Isn't that bizarre? And also Fawlty Towers as well. He produced the first series of Fawlty Towers. So isn't that weird? So a guy that started out as a child actor, he appeared in, I think it was David Lean, his version of Oliver Twist. I think it was in the 1940s. And he went on to be a big TV executive. And he is the one who sacked Benny Hill and axed his show. And some people say it was also responsible for his early death. So he died not very long after that happened, which is very sad. But it would have been 100 years of Benny Hill had he still been here. Very popular, by the way, in many countries across the world, including the United States and also France. Because I would imagine, I don't know about you, Steve, I think the humour of Benny Hill is very similar to French humour. It's a little bit naughty, a little bit saucy. What do you think?
I don't know, really. I honestly don't know.
Oh.
He was very visual humour, wasn't it, with Benny Hill?
I thought
he
he
was
was
a very
very
good actor. Does anybody watching know Benny Hill? I mean, we're
Yes.
talking about Benny Hill, but does anybody know
Steve.
him or relate to him in any way?
Steve, you Benny Hill is hugely popular around the world.
I know. I'm just wondering about people on the live stream.
Yes. Well, why would they be different?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
They do. Everyone does. Mr. Bean as well. So we think of Mr. Bean and Benny Hill, things like that. A lot of people know it all around the world. Sherlock Holmes is another character created in this country, and he is very popular in various forms: movies, TV shows, books. So it is amazing how many of these characters and also actors and comedians are known all around the world. But it is sad because I quite like him. And I always feel sad because he died alone in front of his television and he wasn't found for 2 days. So he sat there in front of his television dead for 2 days. It was only the sound of his television being on that alerted people to the fact that he might not be well. Very sad. English Addict is here today. For those wondering what this is, my name is Mr. Duncan, and also there is Mr. Steve as well. Mr. Steve is here. Here is something that I want to talk about very briefly, and then we will have our big subject. Steve, in life, people quite often disagree or maybe argue over certain things. Now, I'm going to ask you as well, out there in YouTube land, I haven't forgotten about you, but things that we generally argue about. Now, it might be in relationships, but it might also be generally in life as well. So we are looking at that first of all. Reasons for arguing. And for those wondering, I have not spelt that word wrong. Arguing does not have the E. It is missing the E when we do that. So maybe in relationships, maybe we could give a little bit away about what we do, Steve. What is the thing that we sometimes disagree on generally in our day-to-day lives? Now, I can think of one straight away, and it's leaving things that are maybe in the way. Shoes. Maybe when Mr. Steve has been in the kitchen, sometimes he leaves things lying around and I have to move them. And I might think, I'm going to say something to Mr. Steve. What about me? What do I do, Steve, that causes us to argue sometimes?
Now, where do I start? How long have we got? We've only got less than an hour and a half. I couldn't possibly describe all the annoying things in that short period of time that we have, Mr. Duncan. I'm being sarcastic, of course.
You are.
I would say,
You can't
leaving things lying around.
You can't think of it. What about the heating in the house?
Yes, leaving the heating on unnecessarily when it's warmed up and we don't need to use it.
Yes.
Talking too much.
Well, I don't think I do that.
Not very much, really. Only minor things.
Oh, okay.
Maybe the fact that I have to do most of the housework probably is an annoying thing.
I can let you in on a secret. Every Sunday morning, normally Saturday morning and maybe sometimes Sunday morning, Mr. Steve will go into the kitchen and he will clean all around the kitchen. And he used to tell me sometimes that he would find little pieces of food on the floor, and he knew that they came from me because the things that he found would not have been eaten by Mr. Steve. So he knows that they are actually things I've eaten and I've dropped on the floor, and I did not pick them up. But the heating is a good one because Steve will sometimes go out, won't you? And he will switch the heating off in the house. And I say, look, you do realise once you've gone, the moment you go out of the door, I'm going to put the heating back on. So that sometimes causes a little bit of friction between us. But there are many reasons why people argue. Neighbours. Mr. Steve, you should be able to answer this.
Neighbours?
What about arguments between neighbours? Not specific. Don't name names, but generally. Can you think of any reason why neighbours might argue?
Yes, neighbourhood or neighbourly disputes are quite often, I think, the result of a lack of respect for your neighbour. I think quite often neighbours do things and they don't take into account the effects that it's having on their neighbours. They want to do something.
Okay, so what are the arguments?
Pardon?
What are the actual arguments?
Well, often people grow. A popular one in the UK is Leylandii hedges.
Okay.
People growing big hedges, and Leylandii are totally inappropriate hedging plant for most gardens in the UK because they need a lot of space and they grow very quickly, and people put these hedges in and they don't want to or they put trees in, generally trees, in their garden, and they don't keep them in control because in the UK everyone's got small gardens because we haven't got much space in the UK. There's 60 odd million of us.
Okay, well, anything else?
What?
Besides that?
Besides what?
Besides growing large bushes, what else is there?
Noise.
Noise. Parties. Now, we used to get lots of people with parties around here, but we don't get them very often anymore. So maybe noise, parties, having too much fun in your garden. Maybe you are making a lot of noise. Maybe you are a person who leaves the house very early in the morning. So I think noise or disturbance is another one why neighbours might find themselves arguing. Another thing, of course, that neighbours often argue about is when one neighbour wants to make a change to their house and maybe the other neighbour does not like or that their plans or the plan that they have. So it can happen. So neighbours can also disagree. When one neighbour wants to change their house, they want to make it look brighter, or maybe they want to change part of the house and make it larger, and the other neighbour is not very happy about it. And of course, dogs. We've come full circle, Steve.
Well, there we go. Yes, Saturino mentions dogs. Tomek mentioned noise, and yeah. So there's noise is one of the things that you can, which here in the UK, if you want to complain about a neighbour, certain things you can go to the council about, and they will or they have to investigate it, and noise is one of them. In fact, it's noise or building regulations that might have not been done correctly. Like you said, Mr. Duncan, somebody may be building an extension or doing something to their house that is outside the building regulations. The council have to do something about it. If you've got a noisy neighbour, maybe barking dogs, maybe music being played loud at night, if you live in a flat or in a semi-detached house where you've got a wall, your house, a wall, and then no space between you and the neighbour, then the noise can go through. Well, if it, you can complain here in the UK. The council will come out and investigate.
It's interesting. Christina says, I have neighbours who often hang pictures and they are making lots of noise in the evening hours. So maybe they are banging on the wall if they are hanging pictures. But if they do it regularly, they might be doing it on purpose. And that's another thing, isn't it, Steve? Sometimes one person might annoy another person intentionally. They actually mean to do it. They are not doing it accidentally. They are doing it because they want to annoy their neighbour or another person.
Yes.
So that also can happen. It can.
I think as well, we easily get annoyed by other people.
Yes.
And it's very easy to stop thinking about your neighbours as human beings and just see them as very annoying people. And you almost, particularly if they do something I can never understand. That's something I've always tried to do, and we've always tried to do. I can honestly say there's nothing we do that would annoy our neighbours. We don't make noise. Yeah. We don't have lots of parties.
We are the best neighbours.
I keep all the bushes cut back.
We are the best neighbours in the world.
Don't let the trees grow out of proportion. I couldn't see why we would annoy anyone unless they just didn't like us living here for whatever irrational reason. But I don't know. Maybe we sometimes can be intolerant because I suppose you're trying to judge everybody else by your own standards, and when they don't come up to the standards that you expect them to have, then that's when you start to get annoyed. And it can escalate. Once you start making complaints, it starts escalating, and then you can have years of... but I think it all stems from lack of respect.
Well, yes, I suppose so. But that's another story altogether. That's a whole different thing. One thing we used to have difficulty with before we moved here was, and it's the big one, and I'm surprised we haven't mentioned this already, the reason for people arguing or falling out or disagreeing. Parking. Car parking. Now, if you live in parts of London, car parking, that means parking your car outside your house or nearby your house, is a huge problem because many people nowadays, each family might have 3 or 4, sometimes even 5 cars for one household. Where do you put the cars? Fortunately, now we don't have that problem. I don't know how many cars we could fit now on our driveway. I think, didn't we work it out once? We worked out once that we can fit around about 5 cars, I think, on our driveway. So we don't have to worry about it anymore. But where we lived before, it was a nightmare, wasn't it?
Yes, because when houses were built, say, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even in the 80s, they weren't built... They were only built with enough space maybe for 2 cars, most houses, or detached houses, or even semi-detached houses. But of course, quite often now you get, because there are a lot more cars, you could have a family, couldn't you? You could have a husband and a wife. They could have a car each, and then they might have 2 children, because a lot of children now live with their parents because of the cost of housing. So, 4 cars is not unusual in a household where the house was originally only built to maybe have 1 or 2. So people now convert their front gardens. There might have been a garden there with lawn, and they take that away and pave it and put a car on there. Yeah. And then when people come to visit other neighbours, they'll park in front of your house and all sorts of things like that, block your drive. And this sort of thing used to cause me a lot of stress where we lived before because, we've only got 1 car because you don't drive and we don't have a family. And
what used to happen is that they would park their car right in front of our house and sometimes over the driveway, so you couldn't leave the house, and we used to have to go round and ask them. It's crazy. You have to go round and say, excuse me, I hope you don't mind me asking, but could you please move your car because I can't get out of my driveway. I'm trying to get my car out onto the road and I can't because you've parked your car right across. Yes. So I think parking is definitely a good reason, or one of the common reasons in this country, why people will argue or fall out.
Because there are just so many cars. I think I can't remember how many cars we've got in this country. I think it's about 40 million or something ridiculous like that, or 35 million or cars. Maybe somebody could look it up.
It's a lot.
It is pretty crazy for what is a very small island, really.
But I think the problem is, Steve, the problem is everyone wants to have a car. So I don't think it's necessarily the number of cars, but it's just the fact that one household, every child in the house, maybe 2 or 3 children, all want to have their own car. The mother wants a car. The father wants a car. Everyone wants to have a car. We're lucky because I don't drive. I don't have a car or drive. So most of the time, Steve can just drive off, come back.
Always.
You don't have to worry, do you?
You have to have a motorbike. But thank you, Pedro. Yes. Reminding everybody to please smash the like button, because it does help Mr. Duncan's channel to be seen across YouTube, which is important. So, yeah, thank you very much. Even if you're not liking it, as I would say, just like it anyway.
Yes.
Because if you're watching, then...
okay.
Yeah, just like it.
Yes, just like it.
Like it. Don't argue.
Don't suggest disliking, please, because there is a dislike button as well.
Do you get seen across YouTube if you get lots of dislikes?
No.
Oh right, doesn't
that's
work
the
like
opposite.
that then. So
you keep saying dislike.
No, but nobody's going to do that. So thank you for that, Pedro. It must be the shirt.
God, you're so naive for the internet. How do you survive on the internet? I'll never know. Whenever you say people
there we go. Saturino's got me going now.
Okay.
The problem is that cars are too big. With SUVs.
Yeah, I think people often argue over parking outside someone's house or maybe your neighbour's, because of course cars have become larger and everyone wants their own car. I don't think it's the size of a car. I think it's the number. Everyone wants to have a car.
Well, it's both, because cars are probably twice as big as they were in the 60s. The average car. It is pretty crazy because they've got bigger, because people have got bigger and they want bigger cars, and because of safety regulations and things like that. And of course the continuing rise of the SUV in popularity, which started in America probably, and everyone wants an SUV now because they think it looks cool and whatever. But that's not going to go away. So yeah, they've got wider. You can't park. You can't get out of your car now if somebody's parked next to you. It's very difficult. So yeah, what's the solution? I don't know. Maybe go and live in France. We've got probably 3 times the land mass for less people.
Okay.
So we could go and live in the country in France, Mr. Duncan. And there's some very, very cheap property compared to the UK.
But is there parking? Because I would imagine if you live in certain parts of France even, you might find that there are houses nearby, or maybe a neighbourhood where parking has to take place in a certain area. So some people can't even park their car by their house. They have to park it somewhere else.
Yeah, and Christina makes a good point here as well about garages. Garages were built and they're too small. They're now too small. All modern houses, I noticed that whenever they're building houses in a housing estate, they all put garages on the houses, but nobody uses the garage to put their car in because they're far too small. If you put the car in the garage, you wouldn't be able to get out.
That's funny.
Or you'd scratch the door. So I don't know why they bother. Garages now in houses are largely used as sheds to store junk in.
People just put all of their junk, or maybe some people convert it into a little workshop where they can do their work. But you, of course, Mr. Steve is very fussy. He likes to park his car in the garage. And last week, all of the cars parked around here outside, all of the windows on the cars were all covered in thick frost. But Mr. Steve, he could open his garage door and he could just drive out without having to stand scraping all of the ice off the windows. So you did feel rather pleased about that, didn't you, Steve?
Yes, I like to park the car in the garage, and there was a wall when we moved in here, the garage floor was all rotted away, concrete floor, and it was all water coming up, and I had to have that resurfaced, and at the same time there was a wall. So I had the wall removed and a support in the ceiling put in, which meant that I could put the car in the garage and get out without having the door going against this wall.
Yeah, and of course the other thing, Steve, you can get out the car and you can go straight into the house. Oh, fancy pants.
Yeah, so anyway, yes, but most people park their cars on the drive. And of course, if you've got a car that is desirable, that people like, SUVs in particular, some makes of SUVs have been on the news a lot this week in the UK. I think I can probably say it, Land Rovers.
Okay,
SUVs.
What's this got to do with arguing?
Well, no, it hasn't got to do with arguing at all. Oh. But they are being stolen. They are stolen to order and exported. But of course, because people are leaving their cars at the front of their house and not putting them in the garages, they're being stolen.
They're probably nice cars as well to have. A lot of people want to buy them on the dark market secretly in a pub. Does anyone want to buy a Land Rover? Or a Range Rover.
A Range Rover, yeah, Range Rover. I think people seem to want to. They're seen as a desirable car, and apparently they're being exported to Mexico from the UK. They're being stolen and put on ships and sent to Mexico for some bizarre reason.
Okay, I don't know how he got to cars being shipped.
From Mexico. There was somebody from Russia watching.
Steve.
There was somebody in Moscow watching us earlier, Mr. Duncan.
Was there?
Yes, so I can't remember who you were, but I've just remembered we've got somebody watching us in Moscow. So we've got to be careful what we say today. Only joking.
Well, what if we said that it might be wrong?
No, I'm only joking.
I'm confused now.
I'm just joking.
You're confusing me, Steve. I have no idea what. Oh, Nitram is here. Hello, Nitram. I haven't seen you for a long time. Yes, you're right. I would imagine Mr. Duncan encouraging discussions about cars for more than 5 seconds. Well, it is true. Yes, it is true. Mr. Steve can talk about cars for a very long time. Talking of talking, we will be talking about a subject that a lot of people are very eager to discuss and listen to. Talking all about strength and weakness, the strength of your character and the weakness of your character. So we are not talking about the strength in your body, we are talking about the strength of your character. All of that coming up a little bit later on. But first, a quick break, and then we are back with more of this.
I'm a big boy now.
We are live on YouTube. It's a Sunday afternoon, and there is the view outside. A lot of people have been missing the live view, so I have put a camera at the front of the house so you can see what the weather is doing. It's murky, it's damp, but it's also incredibly warm, and I don't know why. It's really weird at the moment. It's very strange, the weather. 2 minutes away from 3 o'clock. I don't know what time it is where you are because I'm not there, you see. I am here in England, for those wondering. Also, of course, we have Mr. Steve with us today. He is relaxing in his cosy corner. There he is. I asked Steve to give us a wave, just to let us know he's okay. Are you okay, Steve?
I'm okay. I've got a bit of stomach ache, but I'm okay.
No.
Saturino, who we know is a car fan, and wants to buy a Lamborghini Urus, which is probably the most extreme SUV you can buy. I've seen one. I've seen one on the road here in the UK, and it's noticeable.
I think that is Steve's way of saying it's ugly.
No, it's not. I wouldn't say it was ugly.
Oh, is it big?
It's very striking. Something you're going to notice. You've got to be a certain type of person to be able to drive that.
It's interesting.
Feel confident.
It's interesting that Lamborghini make SUVs. I don't know. I never see Lamborghini and large off-road vehicles as being the same thing. So is this? I suppose they are diversifying.
Well, this is it. You see, Porsche started this a number of years ago. You always associate Porsche with sort of two-door fast sports cars like the 911, and then they suddenly brought out an SUV. I think it was the Cayenne, something like that. And everybody was shocked. This was back in, I don't know when it was. Maybe I can't remember. Maybe 15, 20 years ago. Everyone was shocked. An SUV, but it saved the company because everybody wanted a big SUV, and with a Porsche name on it, it was very popular.
Anyway, Steve, we're not here to talk about cars, but the problem is all these companies now have to keep up to date with what the trends are. So I think it's a good example of all of the brands that exist, not just cars, but anything. I think you have to keep up to date, or else you just get left behind. So so even if you're making cars or whatever it is, you have to keep up to date with the trends.
Manufacturers, the traditional 3-box saloon, as they call
Steve,
it. People are, fine then.
Yeah, we can't keep talking. Not everyone wants to listen to you talking about cars. Today, we are looking at strength of character. Strength of character. Now, I think it's an interesting phrase, actually, and it's something that when I mentioned this subject to some of my lovely viewers out there, you all said, "Oh, I think this might be a good subject to talk about." And I think I may have found a subject that a lot of people want to hear about or think about. So we are looking at something that we refer to as strength of character. You see what I've done there? So we have rocks. We have stones building a large wall. So when we think of strength, we think of something that is strong, robust, something that can take a lot of pressure. So all of those things might also refer to, well, not only a physical thing like a wall, but maybe also something that is relating to a person's character, strength of character. So even though it does sound like a very odd thing to say, we often think of strength of character. And we are going to look at some words, Mr. Steve. You can also join in as well out there in YouTube land. You are more than welcome to do so. I like this word. So first of all, we're looking at some words that we might think of when we think of strength. So you can think of a person's physical strength, but we are talking about strength of character. And that means the way you handle situations, the way you deal with things. So here is the first word, Steve.
Yeah.
Oh, the first word.
Yeah. Resilience.
Resilience. Isn't that great? I love that word. Resilience. I almost spelt it wrong, by the way. I kept panicking because I kept thinking that I spelt it wrong. But that is how you spell resilience. So the state of being strong in character. And it is an interesting way of describing a person's character when they are able to, I don't know, maybe if you deal or have to handle your day-to-day life, you have resilience. There might be situations, of course, where you have to be resilient. So resilience is the general noun. To be resilient is describing that way of behaving or the type of character. Can you think of a situation where you have to have resilience, Mr. Steve?
Well, at work these days, everybody has a number of. We all have lots of things we have to deal with. It could be work, housework, work that you do to earn money, lots of different pressures and lots of different tasks that you have to do. Maybe you've got deadlines to do things, and these things can worry you. You might have worries about your health, worries about your partner or your children, and it's just a measure of how well you cope with all the various things that we have to do in our day-to-day lives.
Yes. You might think of it as being the strength to go forward as well. So when you are struggling, maybe you have a lot of pressure in your life, you need that inner strength to actually carry on. So you are thinking about not only now, but also how you will carry on or continue in the future as well.
Yes, it's a phrase that just how resilient. People will say, "Oh, you need to be more resilient." I mean, if you let things worry you, then what is the symptom of not being resilient? If you're resilient, it means that you're staying effectively. You're staying healthy. You're staying sort of in a good frame of mind, despite all the different pressures of life.
Yes.
On you. And a symptom of not being resilient is that you might worry a lot. You might have a lack of sleep. You might have dietary problems and things like that, showing that you're not coping very well, maybe with life's pressures, which of course we all have problems with from time to time.
This is interesting. Saturino says resilience is also the property of material. So it can be strength of something physical, something that is solid, or something that might have to undergo lots of stress. So that is true. Resilience can also refer to actual things, how strong or how weak they are. So we can judge something by its resilience. So maybe something is fragile and breaks easily, then we are talking about the strength of a particular thing. So you are right, actually. The material, the thing that exists, a solid object or something that we are looking at or discussing, its ability to resist impact or maybe damage, how easy it is to damage something. We often judge its resilience.
Yes, and Inaki gives a good definition of resilience when we're talking about the resilience of human beings, the ability to overcome the pitfalls and obstacles on your way through life. Do you let things get you down, or do you just forget about them and bounce back and carry on with your life?
Yes.
And we've all got differing abilities to be able to do that. And of course, you can develop abilities of resilience. Well, so they say. You know, there's always a course on YouTube, or there's always your work trying to send you on a course to increase your resilience. That we have a lot of that at work. If you're in sales, you know, you have to be able to resist people saying no to you all the time. If you're working in a shop, you know, you've got to be able to take the rudeness from customers without it getting to you. That's a measure of your resilience.
Yes.
We're not saying whether you should be resilient or not. We're just discussing the phrase.
Well, yes. We're not a self-help channel, but I suppose it's an interesting subject to talk about, though. So when we talk about strength, we might also say that something is not weak. So when we talk about strength of character, we might actually be defining the strength of a person. We might be saying that person is not weak. So this can be physical or mental, and of course, as we are talking about now, it can be just a person's character, how strong they are with their own personality. So not weak. I think weak is an interesting word as well. We often talk about weak things, maybe a weak person physically, but also maybe something that might be weak as in flavour, the flavour of something. Mr. Steve sometimes makes a cup of tea for me, and I might complain to Steve because the tea is a little bit weak. You see? So you can use the word weak in many ways, actually. You can.
How you manage your emotions when you face stress is a measure of your resilience, says Tatiana.
Good one.
Yeah. Tenacity,
yes,
says Nitram.
Yes. Tatiana, how you manage emotions when you are under pressure. So that's why we use the word resilience, because we are actually showing how you can withstand or take the pressures of life. And I suppose a lot of people these days would say that we are all under a lot of pressure.
Inaki touches on something here as well, an interesting issue really. It's well known that some things have no solution, and quite often we worry about the things which we can't actually have any influence on. They always tell us at work that you'd no point in fretting over the things you can't you can't control. Control the things you can control, and forget about the things that you can't. But of course, it's always easier said than done. Because if something happens and it's beyond your control, that doesn't mean you're not going to fret about it or worry about it. But that's something I think I mentioned that as one of my New Year resolutions, was to try not to worry and stress about things which I really had no control over. And somebody else mentions, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Tatiana says that.
I like that.
Which is a phrase that a lot of us grew up with, certainly here in the UK. It must be in other countries as well. what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. So they say. That is the phrase. So if you are able to overcome some critical moment in your life, then the theory goes that if you've coped with that, then you're therefore stronger, because if it happened again, you would be able to resist it and cope with it much easier than you did the first time.
I think that's one of the
around.
reasons why pain is good for us as people, as human beings. Difficulty. You have to have adversity in your life, because that then will build up your resilience, or here's a good word, perseverance as well. Perseverance, being strong during difficulty. So maybe during a difficult time, maybe you have a problem in your life, maybe physical, maybe you are feeling unwell, like Mr. Steve with his tummy today. So you have to keep going. You have to be strong during a difficult situation. You must have perseverance. So I think it is good for you to have difficulty in your life. And I think this is something that, I know I'm going to sound like an old person here, Steve, but this is what young people have a problem with nowadays. I think they expect everything to be easy. And I think some young people are shocked when they find out that life can be quite unfair sometimes. So I believe that you have to have a few difficulties, a few knocks in your life, because it does make you stronger. I really think that. You're very quiet today, Steve.
Well, I'm just being careful, Mr. Duncan.
What?
There's nothing that I particularly want to comment on the live chat at the moment. No, there isn't.
Okay. What about tenacity? That's another good word. I thought I had spelt this wrong earlier. Your tenacity, the tenacity of a person's strength of character. We might talk about a person's tenacity, their inner strength to go on. So again, if you suffer a sort of problem, or maybe something you weren't expecting, life is full of surprises. It really is. There's always something around the corner waiting for you. So having tenacity is having an inner strength to go on, to continue as if everything is all right. I know it's not easy to do, and it is easy to say, to be honest. Hello. Oh, we have Rosa Celia. I haven't seen Rosa here for a long time. I think last Sunday I did not watch all the live stream. I was busy with many things. That's all right. It's okay, Rosa. Don't worry. I know everyone is busy at the moment. There's always something to do. Mr. Steve is a busy bee. I have things to do. So I do understand if you can't watch. It's all right. It's fine by me. Perseverance is a car-sized Mars rover designed to explore the Jezero craters on Mars. I suppose so. Well, I suppose it's a good chance, Mr. Steve, to mention that Japan landed their little probe on the surface of the moon, although it didn't go quite as planned, because I think it's the wrong way round. So it has to be powered by the sunlight, but unfortunately the solar panel is pointing in the wrong direction. So it may be actually a failure. It might be, but everything else went very well. So congratulations to Japan for having a lovely soft landing. I have to say, I really do like having a soft landing. I could do with one of those right now, to be honest.
Yes, you could say that's a very resilient spacecraft, because it managed to land on the moon, and it didn't collapse or fall to pieces.
Yes, or or just burst into flames on impact. Well, that is it. What I find amazing is the amount of money that they spend on things that might actually fail. So this is a good word. You might use this to describe anyone who is trying to explore space, or maybe they are trying to push the boundaries of something. So they have an inner strength to go on, even if something fails. And I think this is one of the hardest things to deal with in life, is failure. What do you do when you fail at something? Well, you carry on. You dust yourself down. You continue. You carry on. You don't give up. I suppose I could mention my experience here on YouTube. I've had many problems, many setbacks, things that have gone wrong, but you have to have some tenacity to carry on, to push yourself forward. You have to have inner strength. I think that's a very good word to use. Here's another one. We used this the other day. We were talking, Mr. Steve and myself. We were chatting the other day, and I was trying to think of how to describe my experience on YouTube and what you have to be, or what you have to do to continue, to keep going without giving up, to be plucky. And I think that's it. I think that would be a good description of me on YouTube. I'm very plucky. The state of not giving up. Even if things go terribly wrong, even if you keep having problems and difficulties, you carry on. You are plucky. You have lots of pluck, which is a great way of describing courage. Things in life might come along and cause problems. Saturina says Elon Musk is a space challenger. Yes, I suppose so. But what I love about that is they take so much time and spend so much money on something that might go wrong. Isn't that amazing? A situation that you find yourself in.
Lewis says, what's the difference between tenacity and stubborn? I think he means stubborn.
Stubbornness. Well, when we think of a stubborn person, they often don't want to change. They want to stay the way they are. They are not open to new ideas, or maybe they don't want to change their opinion. So I suppose it's not quite the same thing. In fact, some people might say that being stubborn might hold you back, whereas being tenacious or having tenacity is to look forward and move forward. So by moving forward, sometimes you have to accept new ideas or learn new things. So I think that's one of the things that comes with your strength of character. I think you have to have a strong character, and sometimes that means admitting that you're wrong or having failure in your life.
Yes, tenacity is your ability to carry on doing something. So it's a positive phrase. It means you carry on, but you're flexible in your approach to that. Whereas a stubborn person, it's a negative phrase, and it just means that they probably just don't want to change.
Yes.
What they're doing, they're going to carry on doing. So I can see why those two phrases could be seen as being very similar. But so a stubborn person, it's you could have somebody that wants to. I mean, stubbornness can be positive, but the implication with stubbornness is it's normally a negative thing.
Yes, you end up making more mistakes.
You're getting in your own way. You're not helping yourself.
Yes.
Whereas if you're towards a goal, say you've got a certain goal to do something, or I'm trying to think of an example of somebody who's stubborn. They've got a point of view,
yes,
and they're not willing to change it.
Well, we often think of politicians or people with political views. They're not willing to see both sides of the story because they have their own beliefs and ideas. So being stubborn is often viewed as negative, but it can be a positive thing if you are on the right side. I suppose.
Yes.
So to be plucky, here's another one, Steve, and I think this is something that we've both had to do in our life. We've had to have determination. And again, this is a very good word when we are talking about strength of character. Your determination is your strength to go on. I think another good example, of course, we haven't mentioned is illness, your health. If your health is beginning to fail, then your strength of character can actually help overcome those problems, or at least ease the pain or make the burden less heavy. So I think determination is a very strong thing. I am a big believer in positive thinking. I don't always succeed at being positive, but sometimes I try my best. I think it is good to be optimistic, and determination is part of that way of willing yourself to carry on. But I think ill health is one of the things that holds people back when they are trying to pursue something in life. Definitely. Mr. Steve.
Yes, determination. Yeah, it just means that you've got a desire to do something and you want to see it through. Maybe you're determined to get a new job this year. And I'm determined this year I'm going to get a new job. That means you've made up your mind, you're going to do something, and you're not going to let anything or anyone put you off. Of course, in order to see that happen, you're going to have to do certain things. So you might say, oh, I'm determined to get a new job this year, but then you've got to set out a plan for getting it. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. You're going to have to get yourself onto LinkedIn and apply for jobs and things like that, and go for interviews. But yes, determination is often born out of a desire to do something because you want to change your life in some way.
Well, I think you are actually a very good example of that, by the way, Steve, because of the changes you made in your life last year with your work situation. So you went from working to not working, and I suppose the word, I know you don't like this word, Steve, but you did retire. But then you decided that you wanted to go back full steam back into a job. And you were determined at that point because you realised that there was an opportunity. So I think sometimes if you have an opportunity, then you have to grab it, you have to pursue it, and you have to follow it. And that's exactly what you did last year. And you were successful. So it just shows. So I think that's a very good example of that.
Yes, well, same with you with YouTube. You haven't given up. You've kept going. That's a good decision, but
not quite the same level of success. I will be honest, but I do try, and I think that's what I said a few moments ago. Being plucky. You have strength to carry on, even though things are going wrong, even though you have lots of challenges and difficulties and obstacles. For anyone who is on YouTube as a publisher or a creator, there are always problems and obstacles. But
for all of us.
But
yes.
This year, 18 years, I've been doing this for 18 years this year, so I must be doing something right.
I think that's more stubbornness.
Yes.
Maybe you're just being very stubborn.
A bit of both.
YouTube want you to give up, but you're just being very stubborn in keeping going. I think that's probably closer to the real explanation.
Here's another one, Steve. This might be an old-fashioned phrase. Gall. I love that. Gall. To have the gall to do something. Or, of course, naming part of the body, the backbone. You have backbone. So I think both of these phrases might seem a little old-fashioned, but I have used them both, and I've heard them used as well. You have the gall to do something. You have the backbone to do something. So we often think of the backbone in a person's body as being the main support. So we often describe strength of character in a positive way as gall, or you have a backbone, the state of fearlessness, having no fear, or at least having control over your fear. I think it's a very important thing to keep control of.
Saturino mentions adamant. There's a good word, adamant. I'm adamant I will get a new job this year. Yes, it's like determination, really. You're determined. You're adamant.
Sure.
You're not going to change your mind. You're going to do what you say. So yeah, thanks for that.
Gall. I think gall. Now I might be wrong, but gall. I think it refers to the spirit of a person. Your inner spirit. I might be wrong there. It's not a word I've looked up recently.
Gall, yes, it just means that you're being quite cheeky, really. If you've got a lot of gall, it means that you do things that probably people wouldn't expect you to do, or
yes,
or is what a gall. So you might just go up to somebody and ask them out.
Oh.
And or do something that maybe is seen as maybe not socially acceptable or isn't the usual way that people behave, but you do it anyway, and so what a gall. It means you're being a bit cheeky, you're being a bit I can't think of another word.
Well, I suppose you have no fear, so you are saying it even though you might get into trouble for saying it or doing it.
Yes.
You are a little bit cheeky, mischievous even. I can't believe you said that. It's a little bit like, I don't know, Mr. Steve maybe going out into the street, walking around without his shirt or vest. And so completely, from the waist up, he's naked and he walks around the street and everyone's shocked. They can't believe that Mr. Steve is walking around with no top at all. And you might say, oh my goodness, Mr. Steve, he has got a lot of gall. He's got a lot of spirit. He's quite fearless in that respect. You
might go to somebody that you never would normally go to and you've never done before, somebody at work maybe a friend, and say, oh, can you lend me £1,000? And they might say, that's a bit of a cheek. You've got a gall, haven't you? Fancy asking me that?
Yeah.
It's a surprise, something surprising that you do. Saturino uses the phrase to have the guts.
Ah, good one.
To do something. Yes, have you got the guts to do something? Means that's to do with courage. Have you got the courage to do something?
But I still think that would come from your strength of character. So that courage, the determination, I think all of these are what I would call positive strengths of character. We're going to have a little break. So
boldness as well, Tatiana. Yes, boldness.
To
have
be
you
bold.
got the guts?
Okay, Steve, we've got to take a little break.
Okay.
Because I'm going to have a glass of water because my throat is going very dry. And we will be back in a moment, right after this. Don't go away. English Addict is with you today. It's Sunday and we are live. English Addict is what this is, and we are now live from England for those wondering where I am. And I am here in the studio. Have you seen my new little addition to the studio? Look at that, a little doggy. It's not a real dog. This is the nearest that I'm ever going to get to having a real dog. But this is my new little dog. His name is Napoleon Basingstoke III. I know what you're going to say, Mr. Duncan. That is a stupid name for a dog. But it's my stupid name for my stupid dog. And that's all I'm saying, really. And of course, we also have Mr. Steve is here as well. But please be gentle with him, because he's not feeling very well today. He's got a painful tum-tum.
Not sure why. Talking of guts, just to continue what Saturino before the break was talking about, the phrase "have the guts." That's normally a phrase that is used when you're mocking somebody, isn't it? You might be in a conversation with somebody. Here's an example, and maybe the boss at work's been bullying you, and you might say to a friend at work, "I'm going to tell my boss what I think of him, and I couldn't care whether he sacks me or not." And your friend might say, "Oh, don't be ridiculous. You haven't got the guts." In other words, they're mocking you, saying you haven't got the courage,
yes,
or the boldness to go and say something.
I think
to
that's
somebody.
a good point, actually. That's a good point to make, because to have guts means you have determination to do something. Maybe a person who goes off to war, a person with a lot of courage, a lot of guts. They really feel as if they believe in that thing. They want to go forward. They want to put their self forward and go and fight for their country. So I suppose that's a good way of describing it. Maybe if a person, you might encourage someone to be stronger in their character. You might tell them to stand your ground. Or, of course, this can be an instance or an occurrence of it. So to stand your ground. So we are moving into a different area now. To stand your ground means to defend yourself. And quite often when we talk about character, a person's character or their strength, it is also the strength to defend yourself against attack. Not generally violent attack, but just generally in life. Criticism. Maybe a person who is trying to hurt your feelings. Maybe a person who is trying to undermine your dreams as well. So you stand your ground. You are showing your strength. And I think this refers to maybe a manoeuvre during war. You stand your ground. You are standing firm. So instead of running away and retreating, you stand your ground. Would you say?
Yes, definitely. Yes. If you, just means you're not moving. I mean, it looks like you're standing in a particular place physically, and you're not going to move. I mean, that could be a case. You might be you might be in a fight with somebody, and you're gonna, you're not gonna, or you're not gonna let somebody come by you. You can physically stand your ground, but you can stand your ground when you're having a conversation about something. You might have a particular opinion about something, and you're not willing to change it no matter what other people say. And you might be in the right. You might know you're right, but you're not going to let somebody else change your mind. You're going to stand your ground. So not physically standing your ground, but on the basis of a particular opinion you might have about something.
Yes, definitely. So I think your strength of character, a person who will not be defeated, they will not allow themselves to be pushed down in any way. So we often look at this as being figurative. So you stand your ground, you are willing to defend yourself or stand up for the things that you believe are right, maybe something that you believe very deeply in, or maybe something you feel strongly about. You might also, and this is what you were talking about just, Steve, if you had a direct physical confrontation with another person, you have to stick up for yourself. To stick up for yourself means to strongly defend yourself. So again, this doesn't have to be a fight. It doesn't have to be physical violence, but maybe just in an argument or a confrontation where two people are shouting and arguing. You have to stick up for yourself. You have to defend your own corner.
You have to stand your ground.
Yes. So I think these are two very good phrases that we use in English when we are trying to encourage someone to be stronger, but also not to be pushed around. And I think this happens a lot in life, especially in your younger days. At school, you might be bullied by the other kids. So maybe one day you decide that you are going to stick up for yourself. You are sick and tired of being pushed around. So you decide to stick up for yourself. You defend yourself, maybe physically, sometimes. Although I have to say I haven't had many fights in my life, physical fights. Can you imagine me fighting someone physically? it would probably look.
Somebody wanting to physically strike you.
I can think of many people who would like to physically strike me. I think so. I think there is quite a long queue for that. But have you ever been in a fight?
Me? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, a few.
I can't.
Not many, but
I can't imagine you having a fight.
Yes, I've had fights with people at school. I think we all do, don't we? You lose your temper, have a punch up.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't really involved in that many.
No.
But sometimes people annoy you, and I can't really remember much about it. But yes, I think I did used to get involved in fights when I was at school, but I was a bit timid at school, really, I would say, generally. Although I would stand over, people can push me, but they can only push me so far.
Yes.
And then that's I will stand my ground eventually.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say Mr. Steve has a very long fuse in some situations, so it takes a long time for someone to annoy Steve. So maybe you let it build up, and then suddenly it will just erupt and explode in one.
Yes, some people react very, very quickly. I'm one of those people that doesn't react very quickly, but eventually I will, and then watch out. Because I will then go too far. But
I've never been physically in a fight. I've never had to do this. Maybe one day we could try it. We could have a fight, maybe, Steve. Do you remember that time we said we were going to make a video of us wrestling in the mud? Do you remember that?
I do remember that, yes.
We never did it, by the way. It was all just talking. But to stick up for yourself is to strongly defend yourself. Either verbally, you are telling someone, and there are many people that we would like to tell, isn't there, Steve? Many people that we know we would love to tell. We would love to just say, look, here are some of the things that I really think about you.
Saturino says to stick up means to rob. Yes, a stick up. It's a different thing altogether. But yes, a stick up is an American phrase meaning to rob somebody at gunpoint.
You can say stick up or hold up. So
yes.
if you go into a bank and there is a hold up, it can mean that the bank is being robbed, or maybe there is a stick up in the bank. Someone is being robbed, normally at gunpoint. Hand over the money.
Inaki says long fuse. Yes, if someone's got a long fuse, it just means that there's a long time before you light. If you're going to light the fuse, that means that's when the person starts to annoy you, and they'll keep annoying you, but that fuse is still going, but eventually that bomb's going to go off.
Yes.
But for some people it takes a lot longer, and I'm one of those people. But it eventually will go off. But then it'll be like a nuclear explosion.
Yes, they're probably going to be unconscious people lying around. But
some people have a short fuse. In other words, they lose their temper very easily. But usually, that temper isn't quite so. The longer the fuse, usually the larger the bang.
Yes. Rosa says, when I was a teenager, I tried to slap a boy who was bullying me, but he held onto my hand, so I've never tried to fight with anyone since. Women. Now, that's an interesting thing, actually. Have you ever seen women fight? It is... Now, some men, not me, but some men find it... what's the word? Maybe exciting when women are fighting, and women really do fight quite violently. I've noticed women, when they fight, they normally grab hold of each other's hair. So that's very common. If you fight like a woman, normally there's a lot of hair grabbing. So we would be all right. or the other one is slapping, of course. When women are fighting, they often slap, but quite often they will grab each other's hair and pull at the hair, which can be embarrassing because many women now, or a lot of women, will wear wigs or they will extend their hair. So you might grab someone's hair and then it comes off in your hands because it's not real. Stick up for yourself. Here we go. Here's another one. An old-fashioned phrase. This sounds a little old-fashioned. To have fortitude. Fortitude. We won't look at this too much because fortitude might be seen as old-fashioned, but your fortitude is just referring to the possession of mental strength.
A bit like resilience.
Yes, very similar.
Similar word to resilience. Yes, it must come from the word fortifications. So if you had a building that you wanted to protect from attack from your enemies, you would put up fortifications like a moat or a big thick wall or something like that. It just means to build up strength to something. You've got fortitude, you've got fortifications, you've got some kind of barrier, something to protect you against an onslaught from somebody.
So we are looking at strength of character. You have fortitude. It means you possess mental health, being able to deal with stress, and I think that is one of the big ones. I think it must be one of the biggest killers of people, damaging their health and causing them to have illness, but also maybe an early death as well. Courage. Here we go, Steve. Some very familiar words now. Courage. You have courage. You have bravery. So a person is courageous and brave. Courage and bravery. You have courage. You are courageous. Courageous is the state of having courage. And you are brave, which is to show courage or to have the quality of being brave. To possess fearlessness. I love that. I love that word, by the way, fearlessness. It's great. Maybe I should have called my dog Fearlessness. I think that's a good one to say. So you
Somebody
have courage.
with no fear.
Yes. You have no fear. That's a good way of putting it. I think, Saturina says, it's not the same thing to get a punch from a woman and one from a man. Well, I suppose another thing, if you are attacking a man, of course, you can always kick him in a certain part of his body. And I can tell you now, he will never do anything ever again once you've done that.
Here's a good one from Tomek 2.0. Dutch courage, which is a different type of, which is courage born out of alcohol. So that's a very good phrase. So sometimes if you drink alcohol, it can suppress your feelings of fear, and they call it Dutch courage, don't they? I think that's right, isn't it?
It doesn't necessarily refer to drink. Anything that is helping you to build up your courage, but it's not really your own physical courage. It is something that is helping you. So it might even be something else that you're taking into your body.
It could be, yeah. It's something to help you. Usually alcohol,
drugs.
Because if you say you wanted to chat up a woman and you were too frightened, or you wanted to tell somebody something they'd annoyed you and you wanted to tell them, if you took some alcohol, your inhibitions are lowered then, aren't they?
Yes.
So
you are less self-conscious. You lose your self-consciousness.
So thanks for that. So yeah, that often is quite useful if you want to overcome your sort of inner fears to do something. Of course, it can get you into trouble as well. But
okay, Steve, another one, because we've only got 8 minutes. 8 minutes left, and we have about another 9 things to look at. So we can do each of these and give a minute to each one. Bold and forthright. A person who is not afraid to stand up for themselves, or maybe to show themselves off to other people. So if you are bold, forthright, it means you are not afraid to express your opinions. There are many people nowadays, they make a very nice salary from just talking and being bold and forthright. They are giving their opinions on things. So you are not afraid to stand up. You are being bold. You are being forthright. You are not afraid to show your inner feelings. A person who is weak, we might tell them, and this some people might not like this, but you might have to tell someone that they need to toughen up. Toughen up. So this is a phrase that you might use to someone if you are trying to encourage them to be stronger, to have more strength in their character. You tell them to toughen up, to be stronger. Come on, you have an inner strength. You have an inner quality of strength. I think we all have it. It's just that most of us don't believe that we have it. But we all have some sort of inner strength. So I think it is something we can all find in ourselves, definitely. be stronger. Now here is another one, Steve. This might. No, sorry.
I was going to say yes. Here's another one from Tatiana. To man up.
Ah.
Which is, that's similar to toughen up, I think, isn't it? If you tell somebody to man up, it means, well, the traditional view of a man is that he is always strong.
Yes.
Physically, mentally, maybe a bit aggressive. He's not afraid. So if somebody tells you to man up, can you tell a woman to man up? Maybe another woman could tell another woman to man up. It's probably not a phrase used.
It's normally used at a man who doesn't seem very manly.
Yes.
So maybe if the man is running away because he's afraid, someone might say, "Oh, come on, man up."
Yes. If somebody says that to you, they're almost saying you're a bit of a coward, and that you need to. If you're a man, you use your supposed theoretical strengths of a man, and not to run away and cry. Man up. It's a phrase you don't want to have said to you, really.
I've had it said to me many times. Here's another one, Steve. This one might be, Steve. This one might be controversial.
Yeah.
You might tell someone to grow some balls. This is a very blunt, and some might say unfriendly way of telling another person to become more courageous. You might say it to a man who is a little weak, and he doesn't want to take part in something because he's afraid to do it. So someone might say to him, "Oh, come on, grow some balls."
And what do we mean by that?
Well, I just said you say it to them because you want them to be.
No, I mean just in case people don't know what we mean by balls.
Well, balls is another name for the male sexual organs, commonly known as the testicles.
That's it, yeah.
Grow some balls. So we often see. I can't believe I'm doing that. We see balls.
Yeah, well, I think we know you don't have to get that far.
No, I was just about to say we see balls as strength. So that's why we tell a person to grow some, because we are saying that person doesn't have any courage. So you must grow some balls. So I think we covered that one quite well.
Well, strangely enough, just before you, at virtually the same time you put that on, Tomic 2.0 used the phrase "grow a pair," which is the same thing. You don't, grow a pair means grow some balls.
Yes, basically.
Be more confident, be more assertive.
We have 2 minutes.
Fine, yeah.
Lack of confidence. If you have lack of confidence, it means you are unsure of your own abilities. To be unsure of one's abilities, you have a lack of confidence. So if you lack confidence, I know, I'm looking at the comments. I can no, Steve, we've got to go in a second.
Yeah, carry on, yeah.
Lack of confidence. So you don't have the courage. Maybe you lack the confidence to do something. I've often said this when people are learning English. The hardest part of learning any language is speaking the language, using it in front of other people. You have to build up courage. You have to build up courage. So quite often you have to do something. You have to put yourself forward. You have to put yourself in a situation where you have to, I suppose you have to have some pressure, some sort of pressure around you. So you gain confidence normally through action. You build up your courage. You build up your confidence. And maybe you have a good friend, Steve. Maybe you have a lovely friend who wants you to do well. They want you to be a strong person. Maybe they recognize that you have strength within you. So they will encourage. So to give courage, to persuade someone to do something, normally something positive, you encourage someone to do something. You encourage someone to pursue a thing that they are interested in, a certain thing that they are interested in. Finally, before we finish today, we often think of strength of character as being one of the reasons why people are successful. So if you have success in your life, we often see the person as having a strong character. And I think that might be true. You often see people who are successful. They normally seem very confident, very brave. They don't seem to have any lack of confidence, to be honest. What would you say, Steve?
Yeah. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Yes. If you look at most successful businessmen, people successful in, the Elon Musks of this world, they've got certain characteristics that have helped them to get where they are. They're bold, their strength of character, stubbornness sometimes, assertiveness. These are often, often these are seen as negative things as well. You can go too far with it, but yeah, exactly.
So we often see strength of character as being the key to being successful. And I suppose another thing you could say to someone, maybe they feel a little disheartened, maybe they want to quit or give up something. You tell them, don't give up, don't stop, don't give up. So you can find strength of character, you can find strength to carry on just by hearing that magic sentence, that wonderful phrase, don't give up. And I think that is a good way of ending today's live stream on a positive note. Whatever it is you are trying to do in life, whatever people say to you, maybe they try to discourage you, don't give up. Don't let them win. Don't let them steal your dream at all. And that is almost it today, Steve.
All right, Mr. Duncan, lovely to be here, and hopefully see you all again next Sunday.
We have a busy week coming as well. I might be with you live on Tuesday. I'm not sure at the moment because we are both going away. Wow. We're both doing our own things. So Mr. Steve is doing his own thing and I'm doing my own thing. So we might be doing some slightly different things. It all depends on the weather, to be honest, because we have this giant tropical storm coming this way. I can't believe we're having a tropical storm during winter. Has that ever happened before? Have we ever had a tropical storm during the winter? I don't know. But the weather is going to be a little bit unpleasant over the next few days. Thank you, Mr. Steve. I know you want to have a rest because Steve is not feeling 100%. So thank you, Steve. And
I've kept going. I've been resilient.
You've been very resilient. Thank you very much.
All right, then.
We'll see you next Sunday.
Bye-bye.
That's it. Mr. Steve is going now. And I will wrap up today's live stream. Thanks for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed all of this that's been happening for the past 2 hours. And, of course, my little doggy, my little dog, just in case you haven't realised, I have a little dog in the studio. It's not real, by the way. It's made of porcelain, but it's very cute. And I've called it Napoleon Basingstoke III. That is the name. Thank you for watching. See you later. Take care of yourself wherever you are in the world. I hope you have a super duper time, and I will see you during the week. I will be live with you in a surprise place if the weather stays nice. Thank you very much. See you soon. Take care, and don't forget to send me a lovely like as well. Can you send me a lovely like to show you care? That would be ever so nice. Thank you very much. And of course, until the next time we meet here today, and every time I'm live, You know what's coming next. Yes, you do. Ta-ta for now.